Mr. Florian Elabdi, it's an honor for us to have you at the Southern Cameroons International Town Hall. We are being broadcast on SCBC TV, so people back home on Ground Zero are watching us, and also on Facebook social media. Thank you for coming to speak with us. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. Should I just start speaking about the topic, or do you want to do it through questions, or?
Well, you can speak on the topic,
okay.
And then that would give us a backdrop before then from there we'll ask questions.
Sure. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So you gave me a very fine introduction, and yes, I work with investigative journalism, and in this case with Cameroon, we started looking at the Danish defense armed missions, training missions throughout Africa, because the reason we did that was I think it was back in May last month, that Denmark was supposed to go to a public vote. There was a referendum, because Denmark has not always been a part of the EU military cooperation. When we joined the EU back in the days, we had some reservations in the military field, so we never fully joined the military cooperation of the EU. So there was a big referendum in Denmark about joining the EU fully in military cooperation. And this was, of course, in the light of what had happened with Ukraine and Russia. Suddenly there was the politician thought that this is a good time to join the EU military cooperation, because or the collaboration, because we are not fully a part of this, and we want to be more a part of Europe. But the thing is that that's what the politicians, at least they told the voters, that this is about having a stronger Europe against Russia. But what they didn't say so much is that it actually has very little to do with Russia, because most of EU's training missions are in Africa. And so we wanted to change the discourse. We wanted to look at the training missions in Africa, and what Denmark has already been doing in Africa. Because just because we weren't a part of the EU training missions in Africa, we had already had our own training missions that we did with the Americans or alone. Some places where Denmark believe that we have some national interests. And in this initial research, Cameroon came up as one of the places that Denmark has trained special forces. And that was very interesting to us, because we obviously knew that there had been a civil war in Cameroon, which is ongoing, as you know. And we knew that Paul Biya, he has been in power for 37 years, I think. And he is an authoritarian leader. So we thought, okay, let's look at what exactly Denmark has been doing in Cameroon. So when we started looking, we started from the beginning. In 2016, Denmark started to train Cameroonian forces through the so-called Obangame Express, which is an American maritime training mission, or it's actually like a drill where a lot of countries join, including Cameroon. And the reason why Denmark was so keen to train Cameroonian forces is because it's in the Gulf of Guinea, and Denmark has a lot of ships going through the Gulf of Guinea. We have Maersk, which is one of, I think it's maybe the biggest tanker company in the world, or shipping company in the world. It's a Danish company. We have other like Torm and Christiania, and there are so many of the biggest tankers in the world. They are owned by Danish companies. So what Denmark, the interest of Denmark was to train some forces, Nigerian forces, Cameroonian forces, in anti-piracy. But as far as I understand, the Nigerians weren't so thrilled about having Danish forces on Nigerian territory. So the next best option, which is according to the experts I've talked to, that was to go to Cameroon. And then we looked, of course, at who did they train in Cameroon. And they trained the BIR, the Rapid Intervention Battalion. And from then on, it was pretty easy to link the different information, because it's I think everyone here knows that the Rapid Intervention Battalion is notorious for its human rights crimes and for burning villages, for torturing people, and it started in the war against Boko Haram, which you have all heard about, and we said that we were going to train these people in anti-piracy, but they were really not that active, as far as I understand, in anti-piracy. They used the skills that the Danish special forces trained them in. They used them in mainly in the north of Cameroon, where they were while they were fighting Boko Haram, which is obviously an enemy to I think to Cameroon and to the West and to all of Africa. We can all agree on that. But they were in the same time they were attacking the local population. They were killing people and etc. So that was kind of our first investigation, and it was really problematic because BIR, the Rapid Intervention Battalion, were already famous or notorious for human rights crimes before we started training them. So there was a report in the fall of 2015 about the torture in the Salak base in the north of Cameroon committed by the Rapid Intervention Battalion, and that they had hundreds and hundreds of people had disappeared because of BIR operations in the north of Cameroon, and people have been tortured, and villages have been burned, women have been raped, and these were publicly known information before we decided to train them. And when we confronted the Danish Defense Forces, they said that we didn't vet these forces. The vetting was up to the American. So we depended on the Americans for the vetting process. So that's kind of the excuse here in Denmark, that we just relied on the Americans to do the vetting. But I mean, I'm very critical towards this excuse, because it's not like you have to do a thorough due diligence or a thorough vetting process to know that the Rapid Intervention Battalion was doing horrendous crimes. It just took a simple Google search. So in 2017, after having trained BIR numerous times between 2016 and 17, we have some internal documents from the Danish army that says that they realized that the exact unit within the BIR that they had been training were linked to these human rights abuses in the north of Cameroon. And for that reason, they stopped training the BIR. They said that we can no longer, go forward with training these troops, but instead they continued to train other Cameroonian special forces, which are known as the COPALCO. And COPALCO, for those who don't know, is a small unit of special forces in the maritime sector, so the Navy. They are equivalent to the American SEALs, the Navy SEALs, and they were trained by the Danish equivalent to the Navy SEALs, which we call the Frogman Corps. This in the beginning we didn't think of it as being necessarily problematic, because COPALCO has not been known to commit human rights abuses. They are mainly a maritime force. If they go on anti-piracy missions and they stop criminal activities in the Gulf of Guinea, that would, from a journalistic perspective, that wouldn't be something we would criticize or do an investigation about. But we did get a Freedom of Information Act, a lot of documents from the Danish army, and it turned out. Sorry if I'm just rambling here. Stop me if anything is unclear, please. But it turned out from those documents that the Danish forces, they were in Cameroon during the civil war in December 2017, and you all know that the war officially broke out in October 2017, when I think the English-speaking majority in the West, they declared a state called Ambazonia, which obviously you are much more familiar with than I am. So when we went to Cameroon 2 months after the outbreak of the civil war, the Danish forces were told by the leader of COPALCO. We have this in minutes of meeting. We have that from documents, that the leader of COPALCO, he said the civil war right now is so hot that I need to give my soldiers to the army, and they will participate in the Mamfe, in the Manu district, in the war there. And he also said that I don't care about collateral damage, which is obviously he didn't care about civilians getting killed during the army operations. So this was very strange to us, that the Danish army were warned that the forces that they were training for anti-piracy were being used in a very bloody and horrendous civil war, because this is not supposed to happen. We are not Denmark is not a country that is known to train civil war soldiers. So but despite this, despite they had the Danish defense had these informations, they chose to write to the Ministry of Defense. Can we continue the training? There are these problematic things. The leader of the troops we are training doesn't care about civilian casualties, number one, and the troops that we are training will first be stationed in the Mamfe operations. And the Danish Ministry of Defense, they just said, yeah, we give you the green light, you can continue the training. And that is very problematic, because if you look at the meantime, what did happen from the meeting where the Danes were warned until they got the green light to continue the training? In the meantime, so many people were slaughtered in the Manu district, in those operations where the Danish trained soldiers from COPALCO were participating. Now, we cannot say that the specific soldiers from COPALCO committed any human rights abuses or they killed innocent people, but we know that they were a part of some operations where innocent people were killed, people were tortured, people fled to Nigeria, people fled into the bush, villages were burned, etc., etc. And this was documented very well by Amnesty International. So yeah, that is basically what we have revealed so far.
Well, thank you, Mr. Elabdi. When I spoke to your colleague, he also said in your investigations, you also uncovered something about the Netherlands being involved. Yes. Could you also tell us about the Netherlands?
Yeah, so the BIR, when they were trained by Denmark in 2016, it was a collaboration between Danish troops and troops from the Netherlands. So they were a part of the training of the BIR in 2016, but I don't know if if the Netherlands also continued training BIR. We are a Danish media, so we mostly focus on the Danish army's role. But for sure, we can say that the Netherlands, the Netherlands forces also participate in training of BIR in 2016.
Okay, I think thank you very much for laying the foundations. So I think we could now open it up for questions and a more interactive discussion with you. We would call on people who are in Zoom. Zoom is just the smallest platform, but sometimes we have questions that may flash up either on Facebook or in the chats, and people could raise their hands and ask questions. I would lead by asking first about the if you have the name of the specific commander of this COPALCO who said they didn't care about collaterals, in other words, civilian casualties.
Yeah, we don't have the name because in the Freedom of Information Act, the documents we got from the Danish Army, all names are
redacted.
Yeah, exactly. So unfortunately, we don't have the names and we don't have the exact words, but we do know that what he said was according to the Danish military documents. He said it in a very what do you say, blatant way. They said that that he in a blatant way expressed that he didn't care about collateral damage. So I don't even dare to guess what he said, but he must have said it in some kind of very provocative and blatant way, which is the way they describe it. We don't have the exact quote, and we don't have his name.
Okay. So it's very interesting because, to be honest, until I read your article, you and your colleague put out 2 articles in May and in June on this story. I was not aware of this COPALCO unit, which you said is like the equivalent of the U.S. Marine. We're all familiar with B, but we don't have a breakdown of the different battalions or units. So that's very interesting. So do you know what justification the Danish government had for continuing the training despite the fact that they were told that the first group of trainees had been sent to Mamfe?
Yeah, they don't give us an explanation. They have been very let's say, they haven't given us so elaborate answers when we confront the Danish military forces. So there are a lot of unknown things, and in the Freedom of Information Act, the trainings they gave in 2018, after this, a lot of things have been deducted because I think they know that this is very controversial to train troops. And they didn't just train them, they actually trained them around Limbe, which is in the southwest region of Cameroon. Or
yes.
So you know, one thing is to train troops during a civil war, but when you train them in the region of the civil war, that is also something problematic. So a lot of information is being let out, and there's a lot of things we don't know because they simply don't want to give us the information.
Okay, now there's a question in the chat. Somebody is asking, what has been the reaction of the Danish people towards this story?
Yeah, so I mean, there has been a lot of interactions on social media. But it has mainly been on social media, like people share the article and people are outraged and etc. But unfortunately, we haven't seen the politicians really come out and say anything about this, and we are a bit disappointed about this. I think maybe to some extent they say, but well, this is 4 years ago, it's not happening right now, and you know, due to the referendum, we have now joined the EU mission, so we won't do any of these missions anymore. We will only join the official EU missions. So I maybe some people will think in the political layer that this is in the past. We don't need to talk about it that much. But yeah, obviously I don't agree, and we keep on pushing for there to be more of a debate in Denmark. But I mean, there's been some level of debate, but I wish there had been more.
Okay, there's a hand up from Dr. Edmond Folefak. Edmond, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, Mr. Florian, thank you very much for this really presentation, and then like the moderator said, giving us another insight into some of the things that were previously unknown to us. I guess one of the things is I am asking is, has there been a parallel of the Danish troops being trained in a conflict zone before, or train troops that were involved in any atrocities? And if that's if that parallel, what was the reaction of the Danish government? And and I would just also further ask if there are so many Southern Cameroonians or Amazonians who live in Denmark, many of whom really cannot go home, because of this war, many of whom have lost loved ones from the atrocities of the BIR's regime. And as we hear, probably due to some of the actions of the Danish, trained soldiers, in Cameroon. What are your thoughts about these people really being able to go back to the Danish government and ask the Danish government for culpability?
Yeah, so there was really two questions. The first question was about if there has been other trainings of troops that have committed human rights abuses, and yes, this investigation actually started with a revelation we did from Mali, that the Danish troops also trained some special forces in Mali. And when there was a lot of demonstrations back in Mali in the summer of 2020, the former president, he used those, or prime minister, I think, he used those troops that we had trained to go out and kill civilians. And this was revealed by a UN report. And we could also connect the dots, and we revealed that the Danish troops had been training those forces, and 4 months after we trained them, they killed, 14 civilians were killed, and at least two of them could directly be connected to the Danish trained special forces bullets. And so that was also very problematic. To your next question, I think that there should be a debate in Denmark about accountability, and whether Denmark had an indirect responsibility can we say that Denmark is indirectly
culpable?
Yeah, exactly. For the killings in Cameroon. I'm a journalist, so it's not up to me to say that, but I think it's a very good question, because when we train someone and they commit gross human rights violations, I think it's very obviously that we have a responsibility, and we are also culpable, either directly or indirectly, and that there should be a debate about this.
Right, and in this case, it would have been the Danish government might have been excused, if after it was brought to their knowledge, about this particular the readiness of these guys, to use this trained forces, even with impunity and the callousness which you described, from your reporting. I mean, if it was brought to the Danish government about their intention to use this, and the Danish government pulled back, that's one thing. But they knew, and it's something that they knew, and these guys clearly told them what they were going to do, or what they were willing to, and they followed through with it. And so that's why I find it a little bit kind of like morally so distressing and repugnant, for a government to knowingly train troops that actually commit atrocities, and they were told beforehand that this one is going to happen.
Yeah,
go ahead, sir.
It's a very good point, and it's indeed very problematic. I think there are a few factors playing into this. The defense minister, who is in the end, he is the one who's responsible for giving the green light to the Danish Defense Forces to continue the training. The defense minister at that time is a figure who is now indicted for giving controversial, classified information about a military, some military information to the public, and he has been indicted. Now he's in a very peculiar situation legally. It's a completely other case that he's in trouble with. So I think that if he was not in trouble and if he wasn't out of politics, I think that it would be very obvious to ask him, why didn't you stop this? And if he had a senior position right now, I think there would be more, people would confront him with this. But he is basically a person who, due to other circumstances, is right now out of the Danish political picture. And I think that for that reason, because he has his own problems with other cases of a very controversial case that involves the American intelligence services, he is in so much trouble that people just think, okay, I mean, it doesn't even make sense to ask him. He has too much on his. He's in too much trouble already.
We have a hand up. That would be Frank Menchum. Frank, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I want to thank our special guest for coming to talk to Ambazonians, and more so for the work he is doing. He and his team are doing to make sure that the rights of human beings worldwide are respected. My name is Franco Mendy. I am a former soldier with the Cameroon forces, and I have trained with the Air Force, the Land Force, and the Marines of Cameroon. And I want to clarify to our guests and to Ambazonians that the COPALCO he is talking about, I have trained with them. They are based in a locality, a small locality they call Isongo, which is at the outskirts of Limbe towards Edinao. And in Cameroon, they call them les palmeurs de combat. They are sea divers. And when I trained there, they actually chose to retain me there, but the Air Force, the minister refused to let me be there because they had other missions for me at the Air Force. Now, what I want to let Cameroonians know and our guests to know is that the Cameroon Armed Forces are carrying out joint missions. As a matter of fact, the COPALCO is greatly involved, not only at sea, but in other areas, even right up to the north of Cameroon, in many, many other missions in Ambazonia, right up to the northwest and the southwest of Cameroon, as they call it, which we call Ambazonia, the northern and the southern zones of Ambazonia. It is rather unfortunate. You can see, I will show you, I have taken part in some of the missions our guest is talking about, the joint training missions. And this is a photograph of myself right there.
Is that with Danish or American?
With two American senior staff and one other colleague who used to work at the Douala Air Base. It is during trainings like this that we have, in this one, this was I think I forget the year, but there were like I think 19 different countries from Africa, Europe, and America that were taking part in that training, in those drills.
Yeah.
So basically, anybody who has anything doing with any force of French Cameroon, La République du Cameroun, should know that they are enabling the genocide of the people of Ambazonia. Nobody should tell you that there is anyone force, even right down to the forest guards, the custom officers who are only supposed to protect prisoners or people that are, you know, held behind bars. You know, all of them, our people are dying in prisons. A lot of them are being killed by the, you know, the prison guards who are just supposed to be taking care of those people. Our people are being killed everywhere in the forests. Everywhere they are being burned down in their houses. Communities, entire communities are being destroyed by Cameroon armed forces, all of them put together. Today, the Cameroon army has chosen to even go as far as to be training militias that they call vigilantes to be killing our people. And, you know, it is really very, very sad that the war sits and watches while, as we speak, over 40,000 Ambazonians have been slain innocently just because they are Ambazonians, and that they want, you know, to determine their affairs. This is very, very, you know, is very, very sickening. I fell out with the Cameroonian armed forces back in Texas, in the United States, during one of my trainings, just because I suggested to them that the military option to go killing civilians just because they want to frighten people who are protesting and asking for their basic rights to be respected was a no-no. And when we left America and went back to Cameroon, they tagged me as a secessionist. I have served in very strategic, you know, offices in Cameroon. I was a national search and rescue missions coordinator. We were only 14 of us in Cameroon as of the time I left. I have served as an air traffic controller with the Cameroon Air Force and was based at the 101 Air Force Base in Yaoundé. So I know exactly what I'm talking about, and there are lots of other details that, you know, because of time, I would not want to bring them here. But I think people like you who have taken upon themselves to make sure that the war at least knows the truth of what is happening, you know, get some of this information. And I think the coordinators, they may want to link me up to you, and we will have to discuss a lot of other things as time may permit us. So I will leave it here for other people to come in and you know, participate in this talk. But I really want to thank you so very much for what you are doing. May God bless you.
Yeah, Frank. Sorry, I was just going to say, Frank, I think if you could link up with Comrade Ato, he can send you a message, a private message. I would like to be able to follow up.
Yes. Frank, we will talk through the same channels. I'll reach you through that channel.
All right. Thank you so much.
Before we say anything, I would like our guest, if he wants to react, Frank, before you go, if there's anything Florian wants to react, Florian, to what you just heard.
Yeah, I thank you for your words, and it's very, very interesting to us because we continue to investigate COPALCO, and I would very much like to continue the dialogue one-on-one with you and me, because it seems like you have some information that could really be a great resource to our next investigation. We have an investigation being published next week, which is new, which is about the training that took place in the 2018, despite the warning signs that was ignored by the Danish military. So I think it would be very fruitful for me to talk to you after this. Yeah. So please, Mr. Atto, if you could give Frank my contact details, I would be very happy with that.
Okay, I will do that. I will do that certainly. And I think when I spoke to your colleague, I think he said you're also in touch with. I think he's corresponded like with Phil Miller, I think, of the UK Declassified. He also wrote about it. I think we as Southern Cameroonians, we have been trying to get our stories out there. And one thing which the town hall is trying to do is to bring people like you and Phil and the guy who wrote on Israel, Frogman in the Intercept. If you could maybe come together as international investigative journalists in a little Friends of Southern Cameroons and put together these stories, you know, I think it would help tell the world what's happening. I don't know what you think about that.
I actually do plan to reach out to the Intercept, because we do have some information that is very interesting about the Americans, and I'm sure the Intercept doesn't necessarily have the exact same information, because these are from the internal documents of the Danish armed forces. So I think we should, from a journalistic perspective, I always encourage cross-border investigations, and I do have my own plans to reach out to some of the other media that have done investigations into this, to share knowledge and to co-publish new investigations, and especially interesting here in Cameroon.
Okay, there is a question that has come in the chat. How do the Danish look at the conflict or war in Cameroon? Do they see it as an internal issue to be resolved by Paul Biya, or needs the intervention of a third party?
Yeah, I think that we should not be blind to the fact that most Danes don't know anything or know very little about Cameroon. So if we look at Denmark and Cameroon, historically we have not had an embassy in Cameroon. We actually don't have very strong ties to Cameroon, diplomatically or bilateral ties. So that's also why some of the Danish military experts we have talked to, they are very surprised that the Danish forces have even trained Cameroonian forces, because it's such a strange choice. One expert told me that it was like a plan B, because we really wanted to train the Nigerians, but the Nigerians didn't want to let us train them in their territory. This is just some information I have from an expert. So we chose kind of the next door neighbor, and that's how we ended up training Cameroonian forces. And now that we have stopped training Cameroonian forces, I know we have gone on to training forces in Ghana. So right now the Danish Frogman Corps is training special forces or in maritime forces in Ghana. Yeah, and as far as I know, that's not problematic, because they're not, obviously not, there's no civil war or anything in Ghana. But it's, yeah, I think a lot of Danish people don't know a lot about the war in Cameroon. And it's even apparent from in the documents we have that the Danish defense, although they were training the Cameroonian army, many of the people didn't actually know much about Cameroon. There is, in one document, one of the Danish army officers, he writes to his superior that the conflict in Cameroon is like a minority struggle that challenges the democracy. And I was very surprised by such a statement by an official inside the Danish army, because there is obviously no democracy in Cameroon. How can you call it a democracy when one leader has been on the power in power for 37 years? Denmark always portrays itself as a country that builds democracies and does good things, and helps out the countries that is going towards democracy or is already a democracy. But that's obviously not the case, and especially not in Cameroon.
Now, usually when things come to this international level, it is usually like our experience, even in the UK and in France. It's usually the opposition parties that use this to pressure the government by calling them out on this kind of involvement. What is the opposition party in what do they think, the opposition party in Denmark? I don't know if you've reached out to them, because those are the people who go to parliament and call out like the defense minister or the prime minister and criticize these policies.
Yeah. I just noticed a reader said Paul Biya has been in power for 40 years. It's true.
Yeah, November.
Because the period we covered in 2018, at that point, it was like 37 years. That's why I keep repeating 37. Yeah, but thank you for the correction. We have reached out to the opposition. I think right now, one of the reasons that we're not getting so many reactions is because of something as ridiculous as it being the week before the summer vacation. So a lot of these politicians are pretty much gone from their office, and they're with their families, etc. And there really hasn't been a strong reaction from the opposition, and that's something I honestly have been a bit disappointed about. But we will keep on pushing and trying to get some reactions from the opposition parties and obviously from the government parties, because we think there should be some more discussion in the political layers in Denmark. But from ordinary people, there's been very strong reactions from ordinary readers.
Now, you said the Danish are now part of the bigger EU force. Could you explain to us what that means, and if the EU force are in any operations in Cameroon?
So I don't know of any EU force operations in Cameroon. I don't think there is any. The EU has something called the EU CAP, which is this military capacity building operations that they are doing all over Africa to ensure more stability. That's the official reason that they train troops in Somalia, in Mali, in Mozambique, and in other places for a more stable Africa. That's kind of the official idea. But there has been a lot of investigations that shows that often the places we are training, the EU is training troops, and I'm not an expert in this at all, so I should probably just refer to other investigations here. But these investigations shows that it's often very related to the interest of the French foreign policy. You have seen that in Mozambique with where Total, the French gas and oil company, is very active, and you have seen it in other places. So there's definitely a lot of investigations to be done about the EU trainings themselves that can be, I think they can reveal some very controversial things as well. And the EU has also been training troops that has committed violations in other places. But that's not really my field, but I would like to continue down this path once I'm done with the Danish army for now.
Okay. Now, since in your bio, you also investigate financial crimes. As far as your investigations in Denmark, have you come across any financial malfeasance between the authorities in Cameroon or any Danish interests or like the big shipping company? We just had the Glencore in the UK and the US, and a lot of these big companies are behind the positions of the governments, like Elf in France, Elf Sereka, that went under. Is there any financial dealings behind the scenes? Have you found anything to that extent with Cameroonian authorities?
As of now, we have not found anything, and we haven't really been so focused on this. But the reason, like the overall reason that we did train the Cameroonian forces is related to protecting Danish maritime commercial interest in the Gulf of Guinea. And that, of course, leads to some very big companies with a lot of power. I know that these companies, they have a lobby group called Danske Rederier, which means Danish shipping companies, basically. Mm-hmm. And that lobby organization has been pushing very much for like a Danish military intervention in the Gulf of Guinea to stop pirates, to stop criminal activity. So far, we don't know if this lobby group have done anything related to Cameroon. We don't have information about this, but we know that they are very keen to, obviously, and they have a right to be keen to protect their commercial interests in the Gulf of Guinea. But at the same time, they have been pushing for a more militarized approach, which could be problematic in many ways. But this is related to all the Gulf of Guinea, so there are multiple countries that this affects, and not only Cameroon. We don't. Till now, I don't know so much about the relation between the shipping companies and Cameroon, if there are any at all.
Okay, I think Dr. Edmond has his hand up again. Edmond, go ahead.
Yeah, this is really interesting. And one of the things I'm asking is, number one, because this work like yours should lead to bigger questions, right? How does Denmark, and as a joint EU, as a member of the Union, how does it determine, or those people, the areas where it would cooperate in certain aspects, like military training, for instance, right? Ghana, for instance, if you say there's no civil war in Ghana, for me, it's less problematic because Ghana is actually a democracy, or a fledgling democracy. That's actually a much better, to me, conversation now, because just that somebody is not yet there is no civil war in the country doesn't mean that there may not be one if the basis of the social cohesion there are not really sound. That is number one. So number two is actually as the EU. I mean, when and the larger question with the Danish position on the EU as a member state. Last year there was 200 million euros that I believe that the EU actually allocated to the government of Cameroon. And I keep asking, all this money that they are actually allocating to these tyrants, how do this country, Denmark in this case, which is your home country, which you are very much interested in, how do they decide how to allocate these resources? Does anybody care where this money is going to, where this money is ending up, and the atrocities and the lives cost by some of this money and the actions that they're taking? And these are the questions I would really like you to pose to the Danish people, to the Danish politicians. So people just not are doing things and claiming, because if you were actually talking about piracy now, as you were alluding to, in terms of using the military approach, what is the reason why that piracy exists in that place in the first place? As far as I know, I don't see piracy in Denmark or in other places where there is good governance, where the people participate in the governance of their people, right? And I mean, in selecting who leads them. So there is an underpinning as to, so the piracy itself is a symptom of a problem. And are the Danish, are the Europeans actually more concentrated in the symptoms just to clear their way, pass with their money and their ships, and whatever wreckage that is left behind, they don't really care? Or should they be thinking differently?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and a very I think from Denmark has, you have to also look at the history of Danish foreign policy since 2001. The terrorist attacks, and really since 2001 we decided to join the US forces in Afghanistan, and then in 2003 we decided to join them in Iraq, and then 2011 in Libya. And Denmark has had a really activist foreign policy and very militarized foreign policy for the past 20 years. And that's something that it's a subject of debate in Denmark. A lot of people disagree with this, that this should be our foreign policy. But we have, for the past 2 decades, we have taken a very militarized approach. And a lot of the critics say that we cannot solve all the problems with a militarized approach. We need to do more than just military interventions or bombing or training troops who are bombing. We need to do what Denmark used to do in the 90s. We were building schools, we were building wells. We were, you know, throughout Africa, we were supporting projects that were doing good, etc., etc., which we, of course, are still doing to some extent, but this has been kind of substituted for a more security, you know, security focused approach or a militarized approach than it was 20 years ago. And one military expert I spoke to off the record last week from Denmark, he said that Denmark has been on, the Danish military has been on cocaine basically for the past 20 years. We wanted to participate in everything, and that's also some of the reason I think that we ended up in Cameroon, because we were just so busy being everywhere and training everyone and being in all these military interventions, and now we are giving weapons to the Ukrainians, and I mean, that's really, I try to not to give my own opinions here, but that's a subject of debate, whether it should be this way, or whether Denmark should go back to a more you know, another approach focused on the root causes, solving these root causes, a more like an approach that focus more on social efforts and projects, not necessarily militarized.
I think the unintended consequence here, which could be a good consequence here, is for people like you to bring the plight of the Ambazonians, the disenfranchised, the oppressed, to the public. Why are these people actually here? Because sometimes it always is that, you know, a story might actually lead you to uncover a bigger story, right? Here you have a narrative of a people who are like 20%, who are about 30% of the country, have about 70% of the country's resources, you know, in their land, and they are being, you know, persecuted and repressed and killed and massacred, and because of their resources, and nobody wants them to have a voice, which is creating the problems that is actually leading countries like Denmark to erroneously take a militarized approach rather than having to support these people who, if they have their rights and their freedom, it solves the problem in the first place, so that we don't even have that. So that's a point I really wanted to make here, so that things like this would be really like enable people like you to really help out and bring the plight to these people who really cannot speak for themselves, who don't have the access to the same media and the same outlet that you have.
Yeah, I think we would be happy to do like a refugee story. You mentioned earlier, I think it was you or Atto who said there were a lot of you know, Anglophone or Ambazonian people in Denmark who has fled the war, and I haven't come across anyone, but I know that there are a lot of Nigerians, Cameroonians in Denmark. But if you could connect me to some people who have fled the conflict and are in Denmark, and I would be more than happy to do a story about the reaction of them, knowing that the country they reside in now has been an active part in some way in the civil war that made them flee. So that could be one way to go ahead with this, I think.
Okay, let's just take one more question. We won't hold you too long again. We have Serenity Rock. Your hand is up. You have a question for Mr. Florian Elabdi?
Yes. My thing, I don't know if it is a question or just something, because Denmark doesn't have a lot of information about our history, about the Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonian history. My thing is, one thing as you go about trying to sensitize and educate your people is that as we speak, correct me, you the expert, as we speak, the United Nations does not have documents from the British that specifically state that they have completed the decolonization process. That is very important. Though they don't want to listen to it, they don't want to talk about it, they want to just close their eyes, but that is the truth. Technically, we are still under United Nations protectorate territory, as If I'm wrong, please, Mr. Atto, you correct me. So those are some of the things that we want to talk, and then people try to hush us, that we can't say those things. That is the past. It is not the past. We are living in the present based on what they did not do right in the past. So why are they trying to stifle our voices to bring this injustice to light? As you go about your investigation, my dear Mr. Elabdi, please bear that in mind. Thank you. I rest. Correct me, Mr. Atto, if I'm wrong, I beg, before I leave.
No. I think the point she's trying to make is the same that Dr. Edmond also made, that there are many undercurrents to what's going on, and there is a deep fundamental thought in the whole structure between Southern Cameroons and La République. And I think it will be near impossible to solve these problems if the fundamental cause of the war is not addressed. I think Serenity Rock, I think is that in summary?
Yeah, which is essentially saying that it probably, like, one of the causes is a failed decolonization. Again, I think that that's something that Florian would eventually lead into, like, uncovering, which is why I asked him to, like, probably maybe this might be a subject for a piece, or for reading more, maybe inviting other people, maybe an intern to work with you to really find out what is the real cause of this problem that we're seeing. Because we can begin to talk about this, for a long time, but I think this is how some of these issues, addressing the bigger issues and helping humanity really start. And Serenity is talking about the failed decolonization, which we can go back but there are so many things that happen that should never have happened.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you, Mr. Florian, before you leave us, do you yourself have questions you want from us, or topics or clarification or more information? You said you're working on a story. Is there anything?
No, I think anyone who has information about COPALCO or about the Danish trainings in Cameroon, they should be more than welcome to contact me. If you have anything that you think is relevant for me with regards to Denmark and Cameroon, if you know of any business connections between Denmark or Danish companies in Cameroon, that would all be very interesting to me. So it's just applied for the listeners and the viewers to have that in mind, that I'm always I'm available. You can contact me. Of course, I appreciate if you have some information that would contribute to our next investigations. Yeah.
Okay, we have one last hand up. Yes, I did send your number to our ex-serviceman Frank Mendy, so he would be contacting you.
Yeah.
Amber Farmers, your hand is up. You have a question?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your brilliant and your brilliant expose on your work.
Thank you.
I want to ask you a question, not as a journalist, but as a Dane and as a human being. How do you feel?
Sorry, one second. Sorry, you muted. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Amber Farmer.
Yes, yeah. So my question to you is not as a journalist, but as a Dane and as a human being. How do you feel when you see all the help that is offered to Ukraine as compared to the war that has been going on in Southern Cameroons for the last 6 years? How do you, when you see that, what runs through your mind?
I mean, that's a very difficult question. I try to be very professional, and I try not to give my own opinions too much. That's sometimes very difficult. And I know, I mean, this right now, I'm obviously participating in a TV show which is for the diaspora, for people from Southern Cameroon. I guess that's a right way to call it. But I try not to give my opinion too much. But obviously, I think from a Danish perspective, the you could say that there's a level of hypocrisy in the way that we have been supporting Ukraine compared to other conflicts that is also a case of someone being invaded or occupied, and we have not supported the oppressed people there. But I think also that a lot of Danish people would point out that there's also a degree of proximity in the Ukrainian conflict. So Ukraine is actually very close to Denmark. There's the only country separating us is Poland. So I think sometimes sympathy, although it's horrible that it has to be this way, sympathy is sometimes connected also to proximity. So say you, for example, you live in I don't know where you live, but if you lived in Cameroon before, if something happened in Ghana, it would be more, if 40 people died in a boat crash in Ghana, you would probably care more than if 40 people died in a boat crash in Denmark, because I think all people work in this way, that we think, this could have been me, or this could have been my children, because it's so close. You can relate to something that happens in the next door country or the country after that. But it's very difficult or it's more difficult to have sympathy with something that happens very, very far away. So I think this is not an excuse, but I'm just saying how some people's mind unfortunately work. And I don't know if this is an answer to anything, but I think this is also related to the outpouring of sympathy we have seen for Ukraine. Is there's a degree of proximity that we shouldn't deny, that this also plays into the way people sympathize with
Before I
victims.
forget, and then I'll ask you a question, please, whenever the show you said you're working on for TV, if you can send us a link, we would like to share it either during the broadcast or after the broadcast, if it's something that would be accessible on what any Danish TV station would carry on the situation in Southern Cameroons. We'll be happy. You said you're working on a TV show, right?
No, did I say this here?
No, he said he was on a TV show.
Oh, you were on a TV show?
No, he's talking about this program.
Oh,
This
okay.
broadcast by
I was talking about
TV.
this program here. I said,
okay.
I mean, this is also like an activist program, or
yes.
It's the voice for the people. Of Southern Cameroon. So I'm not, I'm not pro any camp here. I just try to stick to the
journalistic
findings
facts
of our investigations.
Yes. One last question. Did you find any reason why Nigeria, that has a serious piracy problem, we know that in the Edo Delta, right, they've been picking up Danish shell workers or Total, or was there any reason given why Nigeria specifically turned down the training from Denmark?
I think in general, the Nigerian army, maybe they are very hesitant to have foreign troops help them, or they have a lot of restrictions in this field. Also, when the Danish Navy sent ships to the Gulf of Guinea, they did not allow for the Danish military ships to enter the Nigerian territorial waters. They said you can stay in the international waters, but you cannot enter our territorial sovereign waters. So I think from a Nigerian perspective, they are a big country. There are millions of people. They have a big army. and they don't want a small country like Denmark to come and act as if we can train their troops when they are a much bigger army than we are. So I think it's also, you know, the Nigerians want respect, maybe, and they don't want us to come and pretend as if we can teach them something when they have so many resources themselves. They, you know, I don't have an opinion about the Nigerian military in any way or form, but they are a big army, no matter how you view it, and it's a much larger army than the Danish. So I think there's maybe a sentiment that they don't need Denmark to train their forces. They can do what they need to do themselves.
Okay, I don't know how much more time you have. We have one hand that just popped up. If you would have time for another question. We have Jojo. There's another. He has his hand up. Jojo, could you quickly ask your question to Mr. Florian?
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Maybe this question has been asked already, but I just want to find out if your investigation is going to include investigating the human rights abuse and war crimes and crimes against humanity that has been committed in the Southern Cameroons.
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Is your investigation going to include the human rights and war crimes and crimes against humanity that has been committed right now in the Southern Cameroons?
Yeah, that's obviously we would like to do something about this. Maybe we'll write just as a story about this, but the problem is that we have to investigate in the way we investigate. We have to link it to the Danish trainings. So we could write, probably we could write a news story about what is happening right now, because I know the conflict is very active again these days. And we did mention these recent developments in our investigation, but we try to connect the Danish military trainings to what has been done, and that's primarily that happened between 2016 to 2018.
Okay, thank you very much. I was just scrolling through your stories here, the one in May and the one in June on the website, the English version. And we thank you very much, because we need more of this. The bigger what they call quote unquote mainstream media is really not covering what's happening, as catastrophic as it is. In your bio, you have worked with The Guardian, with Al Jazeera, with Washington Post. I don't know if your contacts or your connections there still allow you to push some of these stories through. I mean, the Washington Post is big. The Guardian is also a big paper. I don't know if you're able to push some of these stories through those platforms.
Yeah, we will definitely try to get this out in a more because you said that there wasn't an English translation, but I think it's just the Google Translate version. But yes, we will try to translate our work, and we will send it to different media, see if they will pick up on the story. I think we could get more exposure for the story that way. I also want to comment on one last thing, because I see just in the comment section that Henry Coleman, maybe someone misunderstood what I was saying with the proximity example, because here he says that I was saying that Africans don't support themselves like Europe and America did for Ukraine. That's not what I was saying. I am actually African, half African myself. My father is Moroccan. So let me use another example. I was just saying that if something happened in Mauritania, I think Moroccans would care more than if something happened in China, because you know, proximity is related to sympathy sometimes, you know, because yeah, sorry if anyone misunderstood what I was saying. I apologize for that. I wasn't trying to say that Africans don't support themselves like Europe and American.
That's fine.
Okay.
Even if that's what you said is true.
Even though if you didn't say so, it's a matter of fact, about the governments, at least at the level of the governments, it appears so, because, if you had governments actually in Africa supporting and looking out at this crisis, the way that Europeans looked at conflicts that are next door to them, even if it is where from that proximity theory that you pose, which is actually correct, we will not probably be, a lot of African problems will probably be not, have to degenerate to the point where you will have need an international community to come in and try to solve them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I got it from that perspective. So thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay,
and please, we have a big problem. I think Denmark is next door to, well, not next door, but not far from Switzerland. We know BIR is also a Swiss citizen, and we know that the HD, which is based in Switzerland, Edmond, help me. What does HD stand for? Humanitarian
dialogue.
Yes. They have been holding up this so-called international mediation process for 3 years, going around in circles, and it's basically blocking any meaningful foreign intervention because they keep putting themselves. So if you can investigate anything, what's going on in Switzerland and BIR's interest and this HD, which has been spinning in circles, just telling everybody they are handling a mediation process and it's basically blocking anybody from coming in, that may help us. We are really trying to get them out of the way because it's been 3 years. There hasn't been a single meeting, let alone a signed document, with La République. Yeah. Yes.
I have, unfortunately, I don't have so much knowledge about this, but after what you said, I will definitely look into this to at least to increase my knowledge about this process. I don't know so much about it.
Okay. So thank you very much. You just got another Twitter follower.
Yeah,
Serenity Rock.
Thank you, Serenity. Thank you.
And many of us will join and follow you on Twitter.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Thank you.
Best
for
of luck.
me.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.